Welcome to Better, the podcast about doing better, being better, and leaving the world a better place than we found it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Better. I'm your host, Jay. Do better, be better, make the world a better place. That is our motto. This is part D with Nelson Mayer. How's it going, Nelson? I gotta get to your camera. There we go.
Great, man. It's been a long time. I wore the same shirt as I did on the last episode. Hopefully nobody notices.
I wear the same shirt every episode, so I'm always the black V-neck. We shot the shit a lot in the last one. We're not gonna do that this time. We're gonna get right into it. So you said something in part one that I want to touch on, and that is that you did not start to have a good relationship with your ex, but you do have one now, which facilitates your ability to be able to master your art and take it further.
Yeah.
So as I think probably 99% of people have kids with someone and then they get, I'm not saying 99% of people break up, but of the people that do break up, 99% of them have some sort of issue to get over with their ex.
Yeah.
Now you guys are neighbors, essentially. You co-parent very well, it sounds like. 1 month on, 1 month off, which is a pretty cool schedule if you because I know like Shauna's on 4 days, which is not ideal. How did you get to that point with your ex and your baby's mom where you guys basically are a partnership?
I think the biggest key to getting along with your ex is just focusing on what really matters, which is those kids. Your shit, your personal crap, your history doesn't matter anymore. You can't change it. Doesn't make a difference. So whatever anger you're hanging on to is irrelevant to those kids who love both those parents, right? That's
right.
Step one is recognizing that and acknowledging that. There's shit that she'll do that drives me crazy still and pisses me off, and I'm sure I do the same thing to her. But we don't overstep boundaries. I tell my kids all the time what's happening in mom's house. Mom has her rules. That's her situation. That's not for me to comment on or judge for.
Right.
Generally, I just focus on what's happening for them when they're with me, right? And we just get along really well in terms of what the kids need and putting the kids first, and that's got to be the priority for everybody.
Was there a point, though, where ego did not allow that to happen?
Yeah, at first. I mean, and I think this is common, right? When we first split up and she moved out, I think there were times where, I bought clothes, I bought toys, and these are for dad's house. They stay here. You don't bring them over there, that kind of stuff. And she was doing the same thing. And after a while, I just recognized that's really stupid, and it's putting my kids in a tough spot. This is their stuff. I bought it for them. If they want a specific toy or a shirt or something at mom's, it's frustrating sometimes because then they come home and they have nothing with them.
Right,
of course. Brought over to mom's and they get the new stuff or whatever, right? But it's just a little battle that we create that just affects the kids more than anything. And in the grand scheme of things, how much does it fucking matter? It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
That's your stuff. Take it. It's fine. I don't care. If it gets broken over there, it gets broken. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. I'm not going to get hung up on that stuff. And people get hung up on all those little battles and all those little pieces that they're trying to win something, right? There's no winning. These are the kids. They matter, right? You got to make sure that they're comfortable. They got to know it's okay to love both parents. So I don't trash talk their mom. She doesn't trash talk me, right? Like, that's important. A lot of people, it's easy to get caught up in that. You make snide comments and you think it's not a big deal. They didn't know. Those kids notice it.
They
of course. Feel guilty that they're talking about their mom. If they don't want to talk to mom about dad and what's happening at dad's house, then mom is putting them potentially in a very tough spot where they're feeling guilty about loving that person.
Yeah.
So even if you hate your ex, do you hate your kids? Because you're making them feel shitty about loving this person. Did he cheat on you? Maybe he's a piece of shit. Maybe. And he can still be a piece of shit. And you can hate him all you want, but the kids have to come first.
Yeah.
So once you're able to drop all that shit, because it doesn't matter anymore, you're moving on with your life. You're trying to get better. You're trying to do better, right? So don't hang on to that crap. And I know it's easier said than done sometimes, but if you truly love your children, you'll put them first and their needs first. And they need that mental health, that safety, that security net, that they can love all the adults in their life, including step parents. I get my partner, my ex's partner. I hired him to come on the road with me. He works for me as my road.
Oh, wow.
My roadie, right? So
crazy.
He's a great dude. I get along with him fantastic. I mean, at first I loved him just because he got her off my back. It's okay. I say these kind of things to her, so I can't say I don't trash talk her and then trash talk her on the radio. At first it was difficult, right? But then when she
I love you just called this the radio, by the way.
Oh shit, I'm old. That's what I do. So
I bet you Clayton would have said that.
Probably, yeah. No, he's younger than me. He's my son, right?
Yes, you would have said podcast.
Yes. Fuck, man, I ADHD. You can't fuck with me like that, Jake. No, but at first it was great because it took the focus off me. She had a new relationship, new partner, so she wasn't constantly fighting with me and arguing with me about everything. And that's why I liked it at first. But then I got to know him. He's a great guy. I get along with him good. My partner gets along with her good. So that really helps. And I know it's not always possible, but even if you're not the best of friends with your ex, like those kids still have to come first. I'm gonna hammer that point home because that's the key to it. That's the key to getting along or doing well for your kids. You don't have to get along. You can hate them, but just make sure your kids don't fucking know that.
Well, I think
they don't need that.
I think what I've learned doing this podcast and going on the journey from being a rather lackluster human being to try to be as best I can be.
Yeah.
Emotional maturity is discounted a lot in this world.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people talk about it. Not a lot of guys are willing to admit that it's a factor. But when you're thrown into a new circumstance, whether it be, breaking up with someone, you got kids with them, or whether it's a new job or whatever, you have to be able to recognize that this situation is different. This is going to require a different approach.
Yeah.
This is going to require me assessing what is the mature and what is the immature stance to take in this situation. And then you have to work at making sure that you actually follow through on what you're thinking, right? And that level of emotional maturity, for some reason, for a lot of people, is very hard to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, because it sounds simple.
Yeah.
If you love your kids, you bury the hatchet and you go.
Yeah.
Right. But there's so much emotion involved with a relationship and then a breakup, which can be, I mean, if you look at Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston, their movie, I mean, that's a full indicator of the fact that breakups are like one of the hardest things you can go through. Do you consider, when did you become an emotionally mature human being?
We weren't good at that point.
No.
That breakup point. I mean, I was done years before she was done, and it just took a long time for us to actually acknowledge it and move on. So she was very hurt when she recognized that it was finally done.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So there was a little bit of push and pull at the beginning with that, which is common with emotions. Like, it's very difficult, like you said, especially when they're fresh. And I think it really did help her when she moved on and met somebody new and was able to look back and recognize, okay, some of the actions that she had that played to the demise of our relationship. And I was able to step back and say, okay, I recognize what I did or didn't do. And I don't know. I mean, emotional maturity, how did that just sneaks up on you, I guess?
Yeah, I guess.
Sneaks up on you, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
I've had some, I mean, and I'm not the most emotionally matured person at all times. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm trying to do better, like we said here, right? Like, my kids all have funny stories about me losing my shit and getting into a fight with some guy at the Lego movie, right? Like, big alpha male guy tried to bully me and take my chair.
Oh, yeah.
I was not having it, man. He just put his jacket on my chair, and he's like, well, my jacket's there, so I'm sitting there. And I grabbed his jacket, I threw it across the theater. I said, I guess you're fucking sitting there now. It was not cool. It was not smart. So I have my weak spots, right? Like we all do.
Yeah, but
when you slip up, it's important to acknowledge that too, right? Like if I ever said something stupid about my ex in front of the kids, I would let her know that I said it because they're going to let her know.
Of course,
and it creates more of a problem if that happens. And if I say, I was angry, I shouldn't have said that, I apologize to you, and I'll apologize to the kids too.
Right.
And I think it's just, I'm just constantly thinking of what do they need, and I try to be a good father, right? And I'm not perfect at it. I make my mistakes like anybody.
Yeah.
But I constantly try to be aware of that. And I've seen it firsthand because I took guardianship of my niece, and that was a lot of animosity between my sister and I for a lot of years. And I would see her when everybody was together for birthday, like hiding under the table because she's scared if she's showing affection to this side of the family. This side
oh, got it. Okay.
And I would see that. I recognize that's where it's coming from, right? And I just didn't want that for my kids. So as far as their mom's concerned, as far as things with the mom, like she's a good mother. We just didn't work out. It is what it is.
Yeah, I guess.
We didn't have a perfect relationship. She made mistakes. I made mistakes. But what is that going to do if I hang on to them now?
Yeah.
Right?
It doesn't no good for anybody. It's
easier for me to say that I recognize that because we didn't have a situation where anybody was cheating, which I know that makes it a lot more difficult. But at the end of the day, if this person, this is what I tell my kids with their relationships, right? If your girlfriend breaks up with you, your boyfriend breaks up with you, or is cheating on you, you can be sad. It's okay. It's normal to be sad. But you're mourning a relationship that you didn't really have. You're mourning a relationship where you lost this love. If this person loved you, they wouldn't have cheated on you. They wouldn't have met somebody else. They wouldn't have moved on. They didn't love you in the ways you needed. So you're really mourning something you didn't have. So it's kind of a waste of your time. And actually, they've done you a favor because now you can go and find somebody that you will connect with.
Yeah, I when my girlfriend told me that she was going to Croatia with her friend Laura for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. I told a couple of friends this, and they're like, "Oh, aren't you worried?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Worried about what?" And they're like, "Worried she's gonna cheat." And I was like, no.
Yeah.
Why? I'm like, well, I would never, and he'd been together with their girlfriend for like 14 years or something, right? And I'm like, it sounds like a you problem.
Right.
Sounds like a relationship. Sounds like something you guys should probably talk about, because the thought didn't even enter my head. And even as they said it, one of my friends, he's a jackass.
Yeah.
But I've been friends with him since like birth. So, you just got to keep him around. But he was like, well, I bet now you're thinking about it. And I was like, no, actually not. And he's like, oh, that's weird. You're weird. And I'm like, no, I think I'm healthy.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to say, how did you get to a point of emotional maturity? That's emotional maturity as well.
Yeah, it kind of crept up on me.
Yeah, it really does.
Honestly, my last relationship before this one was, I was in love with the person who I wanted the person to be, not who they actually were.
Yeah.
And then when it came out of it, it was very messy.
Yeah.
And I realized also that all I was trying to do was because I've always had a bit of an aloof plastic bag floating in the wind kind of life. And I was trying to like find something normal at that point. And then I realized I was in it for all the wrong reasons. And then I was like, well, why would I do that? And then that's kind of what started the journey of what are the right reasons? And then I met these two people right before I met my girlfriend, Shauna, and they said, you need to come up with a list of non-negotiables. I just talked about this on our podcast, so I won't belabor it. But things that you must have to be with someone and things that you must not have to be with someone. So I did that list, and then I realized the whole list of must not haves was my last relationship. I'm like, oh. And then I saw her out with her current, and he's just getting screamed at the entire time. And I was like, oh, this is like, she's still stuck in that place.
Yeah.
Whereas now I've kind of moved. And it was really nice to see. Emotional maturity, I think it does creep up on you, but at the same time, it is when you take your thoughts and you're laying there, obviously not asleep, but you're trying to sleep, and the thoughts start creeping in your head, and you go, I don't want to have these thoughts anymore. I want to improve this. I think that's the whole crux of emotional maturity. Not at all a funny topic. But okay, so let's get to you on the road now.
Okay.
So you have been traveling, doing comedy all over the place. Do you do comedy in places that don't have English as a primary language?
I have.
How does that work?
I did a show in Paris. It's called the New York Comedy Night. The guy hosts it, the monthly show. Actually, had Louis C.K. do his show.
Okay.
And so
there's a name I haven't heard in a while.
It's yeah. Well, he's still out there. He's doing his thing, right?
Okay.
Not doing his thing.
Yeah. God, I hope not.
So he just hosts a monthly show, and so everybody knows that it's a English show. So they'll come out, and I think most people have an understanding of the English language. I got laughs doing it, so
that's good.
It worked well. I did a show in Germany, and they said that they were open to English people doing it. It was just an open mic. It wasn't a big show or anything like that. And I went up and did my stuff, and people were smiling the whole time, but I don't think they understood a fucking thing I said. But they were with me, and they would see me smile, kind of cue, like that's a laughing point, and they would give me smiles back. And okay, that's good enough. It doesn't feel like a bombing because I'm still having fun. Yeah, and they're smiling, but I'm pretty sure they didn't understand the fucking thing.
Yeah, I hired this guy, this Ukrainian guy, last year to do some video editing for me, and I told him the instructions. He's like, "Yep, got it. Okay, good." Yeah. I leave. I had gone out of town for a couple of days. I come back, and he's working on an audio project. I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
He didn't understand a word I said, and he just kind of like thought he did, I guess, or something, or just filled in the gaps.
Yeah.
And so the whole few days of work was for nothing because the project was already done. But okay, so now you traveling, where have you, like, if you're to quickly bomb off the names of the places you've been in the last couple of years?
Shit. Okay. Well, most recently we did a whole Europe trip where I didn't do comedy in all these places. So I just travel and see the world. But we went to Iceland, we went to Scotland, we went to Ireland, we went to Italy, we went to Poland, we went to, what are they now? Czechoslovakia used to be, now 2 different countries, Czech Republic and Slovenia.
Yeah, there's Slovakia and Slovenia.
We went to both of them.
Okay.
We went to both of them. And then England and Paris and Germany. We were going to go to Portugal. We had to scratch off the list. And then we went up to Denmark and then into Sweden.
Okay.
That was most recent trip. And then a lot of trips down to the States. I moved to LA. I was trying to do a thing there, but I couldn't stay very long because I missed my kids too much. So I do a month in LA, a month back in Winnipeg, a month in LA, a month back. And I'd audition for things when I was down there. I got typecast, man, before I even filmed anything.
Oh, really?
I signed up for this agency. They would send you roles that you fit for, right? And they kept sending me Hispanic father. Shit, like, I don't think,
Did you meet George Lopez while you were out there?
Not this time. Yeah, that's what I kept getting. And I thought, it's crazy because in Canada, we talk all about pretendians in the Indigenous community, people that are profiting from being Indigenous when they're not Indigenous. And that's part of my own identity struggle. I did a whole show on APTN called God Identity. I don't know if you saw that. So that was all about my identity struggles with that whole piece, right? So I'm like, it's a bad thing. You don't do that. And then I'm getting all these role offers for Hispanic father. And I'm like, like, how much of a hypocrite am I if I take that shit? As it pays, right? And I want money.
You being an actor.
Yeah, so
it's like when people get mad at an able-bodied person for playing a paraplegic in a movie, and you're like, but it's acting.
I think that's okay.
It's it's like Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder. He's acting. You know what I mean?
I love that scene.
Oh my god,
the whole movie is fantastic.
You know what's funny is I did not like it when it came out.
Really?
Yeah, I was that typical little bitch white boy that was like, this isn't right. And now I've calmed down and now I it's one of my favorite movies to watch.
I love it for what it was, and I think it took a lot of balls to film that, and I get where they're coming from, and if people are offended by it, you just don't fucking get. Like, I mean, blackface is obviously stupid and wrong in certain circumstances, but this was specific to that. They're trying to illustrate what an idiot he was for doing that. That's the whole point of that, right?
Yeah.
So how do you do it without having him actually do it in the movie, right?
Yeah,
it's great. Like the scene when he grabs the other guy who's actually African-American after saying the N-word, and he's like, that word has kept us down. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, I love that scene.
Yeah, so good.
I travel all over the place. I don't do a lot of comedy over there yet. I want to.
Yeah.
I want to do more of that. And
it's like everything, right? You build up contacts, you meet people, you figure it out as you go. It's all a process. Like right now I'm doing a lot of Hallmark movies and everything in town because I'm writing a rom-com. Which is fish out of water for me completely. But it's been a lot of fun to write. But in terms of travel, do you think that, so this is always interesting because sometimes I hear from people, they travel, they're like, oh, I went to Europe for 6 weeks or whatever, and they come back and I'm like, so, and they're like, it's all right. And then some people, like my girlfriend, she'll come back from Croatia and she'll be like, my life has changed forever. Right. I always find when I travel somewhere new, like I went to China on a $99 flight return from Vegas one time. I was there for a week and I found it changed my whole life because it's just totally different perspective, the way they live and all this. And, we hear a lot about their government and how oppressed they are. But they seem pretty genuinely happy as a population from what I can tell. So it kind of changed the way I looked at the way we live here. Do you find that travel has made you either a better person or a different person the more you travel? Does it evolve your comedy and your character?
Definitely. I mean, comedy comes from everywhere, right? So, I mean, those new experiences and new cultural norms that you're not used to, like you can find ways to twist that and make it funny and still be respectful to it, right? So, absolutely. I love to travel. I mean, I love seeing new things, experiencing new things, just being in a new city and going for a walk, like whatever. It doesn't have to be the typical touristy shit. In fact, I'll do the touristy shit because people that I'm with want to do that stuff. But how many times do you need to look at Buckingham Palace, right? Like,
true story.
You know what I mean? Like, people spend hours at the Louvre, and the Louvre's incredible. There's amazing shit there for sure. But I mean, once you've seen the Mona Lisa and you realize how fucking underwhelming it is, it's like, okay, let's go on. I'd rather go sit in a pub with some locals and chit chat, right?
Right.
So I like to do all that stuff. I do off the beaten path, touristy shit. I'll go and do like pop culture stuff. So I like going to see movie locations. I've reenacted movie locations.
I've seen that. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, I've seen that.
Kind of shit.
Yeah.
I got a dark, not sense of humor, but I mean, the dark tourist thing I like doing. So I go to places where like, atrocities have happened and serial killers lived and shit like that. And just kind of sense what it was like and feel, right?
Well, it's funny because
overwhelmed being in those spaces.
I went to Mexico one time and I loved the off the beaten path stuff too. And I played a poker game in like this super seedy place. And I found out about a month or two ago that place had just been busted up because they were luring tourists there and killing them. I'm like, whew,
oh shit,
kind of dodged a bullet there. But I will say that in that experience, I learned how to be a lot stronger of a human being because I had to be like in that moment. If they smelled any weakness in me, I think that I would probably got taken the back room and hung up. Right.
As soon as you said that, I was gonna say that's a good way to get robbed. So
So when you travel, obviously it's gonna affect your comedy. But what would you say is meeting all these different people and everything, has it evolved you as a person at all? Or is travel just really a nice thing to do for you?
Well, I don't know if it's evolved me as a person. Not maybe. I mean, it gives me respect and appreciation for what I have. I miss home. Like, I love Winnipeg. People shit on Winnipeg all the time, and I do in my act too.
Yeah.
But I love where I'm from. I love my people. I love the people that are here, and I appreciate it more when I travel, right? I appreciate the places I've seen. I appreciate the things that I've learned. I don't know if it's really impacted me very deeply. Certain things have. Like, you can't go to the 9/11 memorial in New York and not be deeply affected.
Of course,
by that, right? You can't go to. I went to Auschwitz on this last trip. You can't be in those spaces and see, because you read about them in textbooks. You hear about it, and you're like, I know the history, right? But just something about standing in that spot and contemplating what went on there, right? It affects you very deeply.
So doing all this deep stuff.
So I think that stuff maybe has helped me form a better understanding and appreciation for what's going on in our world, right? And because of I recognize that, I appreciate what I have here.
Got it, right? Yeah, that makes sense. So doing all this deep stuff that you do on your trips when you're also mixing comedy in.
Yeah.
Comedy is at this, we've talked about this before, but I think now it's even more important of a conversation. This is probably how we'll probably end off here. Comedy is in this really precarious situation right now where people are taking comedians as seriously as they take politicians.
Yeah.
And you make a joke. It's a joke, but people can't take it that way. Yeah. You know, I hear comedians all the time talk about how they get accosted when they get off stage because they said this, that, and the next thing. You're going through all these deep experiences on the road. You're learning more about history, or not necessarily learning more about history, but you're experiencing the history on a deeper level. How do we get past where we're at currently, where people are taking maybe that's not the best way to word the question. Comedians being taken as seriously as politicians, which I actually think they're kind of reversed their roles in the last couple of years, where it's like comedians are actually saying a lot of meaningful shit on stage while being funny, whereas politicians are saying dumb shit and being unintentionally funny. How do you think comedy gets back to that point where everybody can just watch a comedy special and be like, that was hilarious? Or do you think that we need to go through all this and figure out the taboo subject? Because it feels like everything's almost taboo now. Like, can you go to Auschwitz and now make jokes about that?
Well, I mean, maybe. Let's touch on this, and you might want to edit this out. I was really annoyed when I was in Auschwitz. I was really annoyed because I didn't know you have to book a tour in advance. It's free to tour Auschwitz. They're not going to profit off of this place, right?
One would hope,
You would hope. And that's where I got to, because I got pissed off because I didn't know that, and I didn't book in advance anything, and we showed up. And so what they do is they have tickets for the tour, but you have to book far in advance in order to get them. Otherwise, they have a bunch that are blocked off for guided tours.
Okay.
So they don't charge you to tour Auschwitz, but if you want to go, most of the time, if you don't pre-plan, you have to book the guided tour, which costs like $100.
Okay.
So I got there thinking it was free because I'd been told it was free, and I'd read it was free, and I didn't do enough planning for that piece. And we got there to show up to go see the tour, and they said, no, you can't unless you go in that line and talk to them in there. And I did, and they tried to sell me a tour. And I got pissed off. I said, you guys are charging money? That's kind of disgusting that you're charging money. Well, no, we're not charging you for Auschwitz. We're charging you for the tour. It's different. And like, that's a really fucking sketchy kind of thing to do. Right?
Yeah.
I wasn't even trying to be funny, but I said, and my people that were with me were just like jaws dropped, and they're like, is somebody recording this? That's fucking hilarious. So I told the lady, I said, so there's no way to go to Auschwitz for free? And she says, no, unless you sign up 6 weeks in advance. I said, yeah, or you be Jewish 90 years ago. And oh God. So, like, I'm not making fun, of course, of the Holocaust.
Yes.
I'm not, but it just, the fucking dumb, weird thoughts popped in my head, and I just was mad. And I said, or that's how you get in for free, right? Like, because I was disgusted. You're profiting off of this. Speaking. Maybe not you specific, but you're helping somebody profit off this. It's gross. And I know, it was my bad for not pre-planning and looking into it properly, but that was the line that came out of my head. Now, I think that's a funny story.
Yes.
So I am going to tell that shit on stage.
Yeah.
And there will likely be people that walk away thinking I'm making fun of but you're just fucking stupid. That's I haven't become much better in terms of that. You've known me for a long time. My comedy has always been edgy. It's always been offensive. I've gotten better in terms of one thing, I think, where I got a dark sense of humor. With my friends, we'll go to the darkest places, and it's a safe space because we know we're not serious with that shit.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I used to do that stuff on stage, and I didn't recognize how my words could hurt and offend and trigger people who have been victims of things. So I would make jokes about rape like it was funny. It's not funny, of course not, but it was dark, and that's why I thought it was funny to push the boundaries.
Right.
I don't do that kind of shit on stage anymore, because that specifically is something that I know is going to trigger people who have had that experience.
Yeah.
I've had that experience. I've been a victim of childhood molestation, so I know I don't want to be that guy triggering people in that way. So I won't joke about that kind of shit. I think there are certain subjects. Now, having said that, George Carlin has a classic bit where he says rape can be funny. If you don't think rape can be funny, picture Elmer Fudd raping Porky Pig, right? Like, it's the thought George Carlin had, and it's fucked up, right? So it's not, it's not, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm of the opinion that anything can be funny, but there's a time and place for certain things. So I don't do any jokes like that on stage anymore. If I thought of something that I thought was clever and was shedding new ground, breaking new ground, maybe I would go there and try it. And if people are offended, fuck you. You don't know where my heart is, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know that everybody that gets offended, or a lot of people that get offended by certain jokes, when they're with their friends in a safe space, I've seen people joke about shit that they'll call other people out on. But they're okay because this is safe. So you're assuming it's not safe coming from me. That's on you. That's my opinion. You're deciding that I'm not a safe person to say that joke.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm not, and maybe I'm wrong, and we can have a dialogue about it if you want. And maybe I'll learn something, and maybe I won't. And it's okay. We talked about this last time. It's fucking okay to just disagree sometimes.
Yeah.
You can't change everybody's mind. Let them be wrong. And people say the comedy, has changed so much. It really hasn't. Back in the day when Andrew Dice Clay came out, people loved him, people hated him, right? But there was less push from the people that hated him to focus on his career and what he's doing, right?
Right, yeah.
And I'm not saying like people don't deserve to be canceled. Some people fucking absolutely deserve to be canceled. Not everybody deserves to be canceled. Some people just need to be educated or learn something, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it's changed too much. There's just a lot more of those voices coming out. They're more of a platform, right? So Bill Burr is still doing it, right? Dave Chappelle is still doing it. These comics are brilliant comedians. They are still saying what they want on stage. And I love when comics come to me and say, I can't say what I want on stage. And it's usually some shitty, racist, fucking homophobic, transphobic. I'm like, what do you want to say? Tell me what you want to say that you can't say.
Yeah.
And they can't, because it's some fucking shitty crap that they shouldn't be saying anyway, right?
Okay.
Like, I don't have that problem. I say whatever I want on stage. I'm going to continue saying what I want on stage. I don't think I'm ever going to, I've read my I'm running too much here. I read my Facebook history and I cancel myself daily for old shit. So nobody's going to come after me and try to get me to apologize for something I posted 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I probably think it was stupid. I'm a different person now. We're getting better. We're growing, and we evolve as we go, right? I'm not going to hold myself accountable for some thought I had 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's that's the unique struggle that everybody has now, is because everything's written in ink now. Everything's out for everybody to see. So, if you go and you look in anybody's history, you're going to find something.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was having this conversation with my mom the other day about, we've come up on an anniversary of when I went through my own little cancellation thing.
Yeah.
And she was like, so do you regret saying any of this stuff? And I said, I can't really regret saying most of that stuff, because that stuff was just fiction in a book.
Yeah.
Now, when I look at the substance of it, if I had known I was going to go into politics, maybe then I would be like, okay, but I didn't know. Why would a 23-year-old guy writing a book about sex, drugs, and violence ever think that they're going to become a politician, right? Yeah. But when it comes to cancellation, we have to find a line, I find.
Yeah.
And that line is still very blurry. That line is basically like spatter of paint on a wall. Yeah. Do you have any opinions on that, where that line is? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, because to get better in regards to figuring out where that line, we have to figure out that line to get better at what we're doing.
It's so difficult, there's so much that plays into it. Like, I have heard people on my open mics go up on stage and say racist jokes and homophobic jokes and this kind of stuff. And I'll usually talk to them afterwards. I won't cancel them. I won't tell them they can't come back. I'll tell them why those jokes are a bad idea, why they don't work. And then hopefully they'll learn and grow from there. If somebody were up on my stage spouting off what I would deem to be actual, because I don't think a joke is reality, right? It can be. I know that. That's the difficult part. That's the slippery slope, is it can be. So I'm not going to cancel somebody for saying something stupid or that I disagree with that they're trying to make funny. even if it's horrendous. And at open mics, especially in LA, they say the most horrendous shit. They're joking about homeless people and addictions and shit. And I'm cringing in the back of the room thinking about all the shit that I used to post about homeless people and addictions, right? Like,
right, yeah.
You know, but that doesn't make them a bad person. They just don't see the world in the way I do. And again, that doesn't make me fucking right? But if somebody's up there, and you can tell usually when somebody's spitting out real hatred, right? There's the line there, I think. I don't want to hear that shit from people. I don't want to hear somebody up there telling me that trans people are gross, disgusting human beings. Like, you can have your opinion. You can tell me I don't think a trans woman is a real woman, whatever that may be. And we can have a discussion about that. And maybe I'll change your mind. Maybe you'll change mine, whatever, right? And we can walk away and not hate each other. That's different. That's shitty, in my opinion. But it's different than saying they don't deserve this, they don't deserve that, they're gross, and misgendering them. Whatever you're going to do, that's a fucking shitty thing to do. I'm all for canceling somebody that's doing that kind of shit.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense, right? Hateful comedy, you know, like, you know, the famous one, the guy who played Kramer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was pretty hateful.
Yeah.
You know, and yes, he regrets it and, you know, all these things. But there's a clear difference between that and making a joke that, you know, for example, I grew up with a very multicultural family.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember the jokes, because we're so multicultural, that my parents would bring their friends into it, which were mostly white people.
Yeah.
And my family would be making all these jokes about wontons and watermelon and all these things, right? And these white people are like, oh my God, what do we do? You know, and but eventually, like, my Asian side of my family and black side of the family, they would say to them, like, it's okay to laugh at these. It's not hate.
Yeah.
It's just making fun of stereotypes and whatever, right? Like, these stereotypes exist, but comedy is generally taking something and just blowing it way out of proportion.
Yeah.
Right. And if that's what you're doing, I think that that's okay. But then if you take it into a direction, like, your message is, because the black people in this family love watermelon, they all deserve to die.
Yeah.
That is the wrong, you know, I think that's probably where the line is drawn. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Where you can always tell if there's hate behind something.
I think so. Yeah. And I think the way to bring us back to the subject about getting better, doing better, I think for me, I used to be very adamant. I'd post anything. I didn't give a shit. If I thought it was funny, I'm posting because I know I don't mean it. I know it's in my heart. I don't give a shit. Post it. That's kind of a shitty attitude. And I think it's better to actually be a little reflective of the impact of your words and where they're going. So you can joke about whatever the fuck you want, but just be able to back it up and defend it. That's what I think.
Yeah,
and if you can't defend it and back it up, then you need to do better.
It's a good way of saying it. I like that. Bringing the whole theme around.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I like that. You know what? Actually, what I really love about this podcast is it almost always ends with some sort of solution, whether it's real, tangible, whatever it is, but there's always something said that I always get feedback from people, and they say, oh my God, you totally hit on that point. And and the way you just said it is very different than the way it's usually said. So hopefully it makes its way into maybe this is your $6 million or 6 million view video. And then everyone's like, this guy's awesome. And they go look your comedy and you become.
Well, check out my TikTok. I got 15,000 followers. I need more.
Okay. 15, that's a good number.
It's not bad. Yeah. It's Nelson Mayer Comedy. And the last thing I'd add is I don't have any solutions for people on how to be better. I think what I do is I'm just open to forgiving myself when I'm not. I think that's
really important.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing I would want to get across to your listeners is that even when you're trying to do better and you slip up, forgive yourself and then get back on it again.
Yeah. Forgiveness of oneself, forgiveness of others seems to be so much easier, even though that's hard, but that seems so much easier than forgiving yourself for things. You know, like, for example, today as I got off the phone with my girlfriend from Croatia, she's telling me that her and her friend are sleeping on this tiny little bed in this boat, right? And it's like made for like 1.5 people. And she's like, you would hate it because you would never fit in the bed just yourself, and then I'd have to be here with you, and you lose your mind, right? And I made a joke at the end. I was like, you tell Laura not to get Rizzy with you in that bed, right? And I thought and then I got off the phone. She didn't laugh, right? And I got off the phone. I'm like, fuck, that was funny. Now she's gonna all day. She's gonna harbor this resentment towards my joke, right? And I still have a lot of that in me too, where I'm like, I cannot forgive myself for not being funny or not being smart or whatever, right? But now, as I say it out loud, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, okay, why am I okay with it now when I wasn't earlier? And it's probably because he just laughed at it, you know? And I'm like, oh, maybe she didn't hear me, because that happens a lot. So I'm gonna say perhaps I take the L on that, simply because FaceTime sucks and it doesn't have good connectivity sometimes. But in terms of forgiving yourself, you know, probably, do you have a vehicle for that? Like, do you have like if you do something stupid, like let's say you make a joke
all the time.
Yeah. Nobody laughs, right? Yeah. How do you get around to
on stage? Just move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And in real life, you know, I said something, it doesn't work. Okay. I mean, same thing. I just fucking ignore it and move on. If I think I've genuinely hurt somebody or offended somebody, I'll ask them about it.
Right.
Have a conversation, and maybe I'll agree, maybe I won't. You know, I've decided a long time ago, though, and I think this has helped me a lot too, is that life is short, right? We're going to fucking die one day. That's it. And we spend so much time focusing on fucking mistakes of the past, regretting things in the past, or worrying about shit in the future. We only have this moment. I could walk out and get run over by a fucking bus. This is what I have, is right here with you.
Yeah.
This is what matters right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to waste my time worrying too much. Half the time we worry about shit and then it doesn't happen. We worried for nothing. You're regretting shit in the past. You can't change it now. You got to learn from it. That's it. And do better. That's it.
Right.
That's all we have.
Yeah.
So I focus on this. I try to do better for me, for my kids, for my grandbabies, for the people around me. That's it.
Well, I think Nelson is way more emotionally mature when it comes to forgiving himself than I am. So, okay. What's that TikTok again?
Nelson Mayer Comedy.
Okay.
I'm that on everything, I think.
Follow. And where we're going to end this is part one. We ended with your comedy from 12 plus years ago on the Winnipeg show, an old show of mine. Now we're going to end this episode off with you're more evolved.
Yeah.
As a comedian, as a human being, and definitely go follow Nelson. And if you are at all in a comedy scene anywhere around the world, get on this. Book him. I think I've seen his comedy. I've gone to a ton of, like, I live for comedy shows. When I'm in Vegas, when I lived there, I rarely ever missed a comedy show. I went to at least 2 or 3 a week. In LA, same thing. Anywhere I've lived, comedy is like a major piece. I fall asleep to comedy, you know, that sort of thing. So I know he's world class. So book him, you won't regret it. And anything you want to say to end it off?
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Jake.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, look at that. You this is weird. So this new thing. So will it do it? Yeah. So now it's the gestures, and then it freezes the camera. Why does StreamYard do that? That's so brutal.
Can I do it on my side?
I don't know. Is that a thing? What is that one?
Nothing.
No, it didn't do anything. It's just a thumbs up will do it probably.
Oh, you got to add this to it. I'm so old. I don't know what I'm doing. This is what happens when I'm on the radio.
Worst outro ever. All right, guys. So enjoy Nelson's evolved comedy.
Thank you, Thunder Bay. It is absolutely fantastic to be here, but only because the alternative is being at home in Winnipeg. Last night, I actually had an argument with a local Thunder Bay guy over which city was the murder capital of Canada. This is what we were arguing about, and I thought I was wrong. It's you guys. The last 3 years, Thunder Bay is the murder capital. For like 15 of the last 20 years, it's been Winnipeg. But I thought, how terrible are our cities that we're arguing over that shit? Who kills more people, right? That's terrible, yes. I drove out here the other day with Clayton and Eric, came out from Winnipeg. And it's interesting, when you spend 8 hours in a car with people, you run out of things to talk about. And after a while, we just started talking about the weirdest shit. At one point, Clayton says, what do you guys think is the gayest drink? That's what he said. What's the gayest drink? And Eric said he thought it was a silver cloud. Clayton said he thought it was a chocolate martini. I said I thought it was probably sperm. Thinking I probably won that, right, Thunder Bay? Yes. Yeah. So I made a mistake, though. I left it up to Clayton to book the car for us, and he forgot to rent a car. So the last minute we went down to pick it up, and all they had for us was a Fiat. You guys know what a Fiat is? It's tiny. It looks like a golf cart. That's what it looks like. Clayton and I crammed into that thing with Eric stuffed in the back seat somehow like a contortionist. We're driving down the highway. It looked like we were playing Mario Kart. That's what it looked like. At one point, I thought I saw a banana. I was like, quick, swerve! Crazy.
Thanks for checking out Better. If you got to the end, it must mean you liked the episode, right? So how about 5 stars, maybe a sub, maybe a share? Great universal comment points. And good luck on your better journey.